Hello, I'm Smay Ceylan and you're watching Playback, Tier 2 World's weekly showcase of our best stories from around the globe. Coming up, it's Ukraine's Independence Day, but we look at what that means for citizens as they also mark 6 months since the start of Russia's attack on the country. Türkiye celebrates 6 years since the successful Euphrates Shield operation targeted the Daesh and YPG terror groups in Syria. The former Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan, has been charged with terrorism for allegedly threatening police and a judge during a speech. And we go to Japan, where artists are helping to revive the country's culinary culture with creations that are a feast for the eyes, but perhaps not the stomach. We begin in Ukraine, where muted commemorations were held to mark the country's Independence Day from Soviet rule. It happened even as Ukrainian forces remained on high alert 6 months since the start of Russia's so-called special operation. Melinda Nusifora tells us what it was like on the ground from the southern port city of Odessa.
No celebrations and no parades. This Independence Day is a solemn affair. The heightened threat of Russian attacks has seen all official commemorations in Kyiv cancelled. Public gatherings may be forbidden, but that doesn't mean the day's forgotten. In fact, it's perhaps more significant now than ever. It's also the 6-month anniversary of the war.
We finally became united, a new nation born on February 24 at 4 a.m. Not born, but reborn. A nation that didn't cry, scream, or take fright. One that didn't flee, did not give up, and did not forget.
A 2-day curfew is in place in Kharkiv. Instead of the national anthem, anti-aircraft cannons rang out across the region. And in Odessa, the usually busy streets are almost empty.
I always celebrate Independence Day with my family. Last year it was really special, so today, not celebrating, it hurts me.
Air raid sirens, like the one you can hear in the background, have been sounding on Wednesday here in Odessa much louder, for much longer and much more regularly than they have done in recent days, maybe even weeks. But despite the threat of a build-up of Russian missile-carrying warships in the Black Sea, residents here say they refuse to be afraid.
I always celebrated Independence Day, but, like many Ukrainians, today feels more important. We know we can't celebrate with parades because it's dangerous. But in the heart of every Ukrainian, this day has become more important.
In his national address, President Zelensky vowed to take back all the land Russia has occupied, including Crimea, which Russia annexed in 2014.
What does the end of the war look like for us? We used to say peace. Now we say victory.
But it will come at a high cost. In the past 6 months of fighting, Ukraine says about 9,000 military personnel have been killed, and the UN High Commission for Human Rights estimates more than 5,500 civilians have died.
We can never match the sacrifices you are making every day, but we can and we will stand by your side.
Defending the sovereignty and independence of Ukraine is defending the stability of our world.
Russia hasn't updated its casualty numbers since March, but US intelligence puts the figure at about 15,000 combat deaths. More than 3 decades after the fall of the Soviet Union, the fight for independence rages on. Melinda Nusifora, TRT World, Odessa.
It's been 6 years since Euphrates Shield, Türkiye's first anti-terror operation in Syria, targeting Daesh and YPG terror groups, was launched. The 7-month campaign ended with the liberation of Al-Bab from Daesh. It also weakened the YPG and prevented the group from creating a strong base in Syria. 6 years on, we take a look at the operation's significance in ensuring regional and international security.
The border between Turkey and Syria was once a place of chaos, but now Turkey's safe zones a source of stability for the region, and they have proven to be instrumental in reducing conflict in the country. The safe zones were created after joint operations by Syrian opposition forces and Turkey's military. The first was Euphrates Shield.
Daesh denilen örgütü
It is our duty to our nation to end the organization called Daesh in Syria and to render it unable to take action in our country.
Fırat Kalkanı Harekatı
Operation Euphrates Shield is the first step to this. No one can stop us from doing whatever it takes to destroy all organizations that threaten our perpetuity as a country and nation, no matter who is behind them.
In August 2016, the Turkish military launched Operation Euphrates Shield to eliminate terrorist groups operating across the country's southern border. This included principally Daesh, who controlled a 55-kilometer stretch of land along the border, as well as pockets of the YPG. The operation lasted 7 months and led to the neutralization of 4,000 terrorists. The Turkish army also freed 243 towns and villages from control of the terrorists and cleared 2,015 kilometers of territory from Jarablus in the east to Al-Bab in southwestern Syria. The success of the operation enabled Turkey to carry out 2 more operations needed to strengthen security along the border. Operation Olive Branch cleared 148 kilometers of border area in Afrin, and Operation Peace Spring cleared 120 kilometers around Tel Abyad, ensuring greater security in the region.
The operation succeeded after it captured the city of Al-Bab and foiled all conspiracies that were aiming to establish a terror corridor. YPG was trying to expand their control by claiming they are fighting Daesh, and our operation has cleared Daesh from the area and stopped the YPG terrorists from making this corridor along the Turkish border.
Turkey's crackdown on Daesh destroyed the terror group's power in the region, and many Syrians were able to return to the safe zones to rebuild their lives in the liberated areas. While Daesh has now been completely eliminated from the area, continued support from the US has allowed the YPG to survive in pockets close to the border. And they are still carrying out attacks like this recent bombing of a market in Al-Bab. It prompted Turkey to step up its military drills in the region.
ülkemizin sınırları dibinde.
I hereby want to declare one more time that we will never allow terror corridors to be built next to the borders of our country, that we will definitely complete the missing parts of our safety line.
Turkey says it will continue these military operations until all terror cells in the region have been destroyed. Abdulwahab Ayubi, TRT World.
Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan has been granted bail by the Islamabad High Court over terrorism charges. He's been charged with threatening police and a judge during a speech he made on Saturday. Khan was voted out as leader in a no-confidence move in April, but has since seen a revival in his popularity and is now calling for early elections. Shoaib Hassan reports.
Dozens of Imran Khan's supporters gather outside his house after reports police were on their way to arrest him. Tensions are high in Pakistan following political instability. The government's decision to file terrorism charges against former Prime Minister Imran Khan has heightened them even more. Police filed the charges after Khan made threats over the arrest and alleged torture of a top aide during a live telecast of his latest rally in Islamabad on Saturday. Police also accused Khan of inciting his supporters to be violent towards officials. The former Prime Minister is currently leading a campaign calling for early elections and the removal of what he calls an imported government. Khan believes his government's dismissal was engineered by the US in cahoots with some Pakistani politicians. Critics say the main reason that his government collapsed was economic mismanagement and disagreements over key appointments in Pakistan's powerful military. But Khan's supporters are standing by the former cricketing great, and right now he's riding a massive wave of popularity.
In a way, actually, any move to arrest him could ignite an already volatile political situation. His popularity has risen phenomenally since the ouster from power. But what is more serious is that he is accusing the country's most the powerful military for whatever is happening against him.
His newfound popularity has enabled him to win by-elections in Pakistan's largest and most important Punjab province and form the ruling government there. Khan has refused to back down while accusing the federal government of trying to stop the broadcast of his rallies and speeches.
They are using Pakistan Electronic Media Regulatory Authority, now it comes the PEMRA, that says Imran Khan cannot be aired live. What crime has Imran Khan committed to deserve this? I will never accept this gang of thieves. This is the crime of Imran Khan. This is the crime.
As Khan's message resonates with more and more people, the unease of Pakistan's ruling military-backed establishment is rising. The government's latest move has increased its criticism by the public, as Khan is gambling on their rising support to bring him back into office. Shoaib Hassan, TRT World.
Well, politicians in Argentina are also facing legal woes as Vice President Cristina Kirchner faces up to 12 years in prison over charges of corruption. Federal prosecutor accused the former president of handing out fraudulent public work contracts during her 2 terms as president. Muttalib Erdogan reports.
A scuffle breaks out between riot police and angry protesters outside Argentina's Vice President Cristina Fernandez's home. People took to the streets after federal prosecutor Diego Luciano outlined the alleged financial misconduct of the former president.
Cristina Elizabeth Fernandez should be sentenced to 12 years imprisonment and disqualified from holding public office for crimes of aggravated illicit association due to her capacity as a leader and aggravated fraudulent administration by working in detriment of the public administration.
Fernandez has been accused of corruption while holding the country's top position from 2007 to 2015. Prosecutors say Fernandez's fraud against the state cost the country around $1 billion. One of them allegedly involved issuing 51 public works contracts for roadworks to a friend in Santa Cruz province.
Today is a historic day for me because we finally begin to see the end of corruption. I may no longer be there to see it, but I want a different country without corrupt people, and I want her to pay for everything she did, for everything she stole.
The country's president, Alberto Fernandez, expressed solidarity on a social media post, and many others also believe Cristina Fernandez has been the victim of persecution by the courts and media.
Every time they want to mess with her, we will take to the streets because I am part of the generation whose life she saved.
Fernandez has strongly denied the allegations.
Absolutamente nada.
Nothing, absolutely nothing of what they said was proved. But it was not just not proved, so that led to doubts. But it was not only not proved, but it was also proved it was the opposite of what they said. We could see this on the testimonies of the witnesses who were called upon by the public prosecutor's office.
She says the verdict of the 3-year trial is already written and even signed to prevent her from running for public office again. It's officially expected by the end of the year. Muttalib Erdogan, TRT World.
Meanwhile, in Malaysia, former Prime Najib Razak is beginning a 12-year jail sentence for corruption. The longtime leader was found guilty of illegally receiving more than $10 million from one MDB state fund. He lost his final appeal on Tuesday. John Brain reports.
His last moments as a free man, Najib Razak arriving at Malaysia's federal court to be greeted by his supporters.
First, I would like to thank everyone for showing up and showing me your support. I have tried with all that I can, but everything I proposed to the court is rejected. I did not get justice, and I didn't get a fair trial based on its principles.
Najib was found guilty in July 2020 of involvement in the so-called 1MDB scandal. Billions of dollars were looted from the now defunct state fund by his associates. The former Prime Minister's share was more than $10 million. After the court dismissed his final appeal, Najib's lawyer made a brief statement.
Of course, we are very sad because we lost the appeal. I only say that we seek comfort and solace in the words of a great Indian jurist who said that the Almighty alone can dispense perfect justice.
But many Malaysians are relieved that the former Prime Minister's wrongdoing has been punished.
From the bottom of my heart, I am happy justice is served and he deserved it.
We believe in our judiciary system. When the guilty verdict was pronounced, I read in the news today that he received 12 years prison sentence. So I believe if he's already been proven guilty, I think it's well deserved.
And Najib's wife, Rosma Mansour, could be following her husband to jail. She faces separate corruption charges related to a solar hybrid project. The court will deliver its verdict on her case next month. John Brain, TRT World.
Iraq is experiencing its longest political crisis since the US-led invasion in 2003. Elections last October failed to produce a government, and the resulting impasse has lasted for 10 months with no end in sight. What makes the situation potentially explosive is the political infighting along ideological lines. Claire Harriott reports.
Tensions between rival Shia groups in Iraq escalated on Monday when several hundred supporters of leader Muqtada al-Sadr launched a sit-in at the Supreme Judicial Council. The standoff intensified after the Coordination Framework, a political bloc that's close to Iran and opposes al-Sadr, put forward a nominee for Prime Minister.
We demand our rights, which we've been deprived of since 2003. They've spread corruption, bribery, drugs and appointments in return for money.
The judiciary is either under threat from Coordination Framework followers or receives bribes.
Al-Sadr called on his supporters to withdraw, but tensions are flaring after 10 months of two Shia leaders vying for political power. In October, the Sadrist movement won the most seats in parliamentary elections. Al-Sadr had hoped to form a government that would sideline his Shia rivals. His main rival is former Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki. He's one of the leaders of the Coordination Framework. They hampered al-Sadr's attempts to form a government. In June, al-Sadr ordered his 73 MPs to resign. Coordination Framework lawmakers filled their parliamentary seats. Things came to a head in July when al-Sadr mobilised his supporters to storm Baghdad's fortified Green Zone and take over the Parliament building. They've been camped outside for the last 3 weeks. Supporters of the Coordination Framework have been holding a sit-in of their own. The standoff between the two Shia groups is Iraq's longest stretch without a fully functioning government. Caretaker Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi has cut short a visit to Egypt in order to deal with the crisis. He's been calling for calm, but the Shia divide risks Iraq tearing itself apart from within. Claire Harriott, TRT World.
Water. It's a precious commodity that a lot of us take for granted, but some parts of the world aren't getting enough of it as the climate crisis rears its ugly head. Now, the United Nations is looking at new ways of managing H2O, with this week being World Water Week.
It's been a long, hot summer in Europe, and it's caused havoc across the continent, with many countries experiencing record-breaking temperatures and suffering their worst drought for decades. Scientists are blaming the lack of water on climate change, and now to combat the drought, some European countries are passing measures to ration water. France has declared a national crisis, and 9 regions in the south have imposed a daily limit on consumption. Italy is suffering its driest period in 70 years. Many are rationing water usage. Cities have turned off fountains, and some have forbidden washing cars and watering gardens. And some cities in the south of the United Kingdom have banned the use of garden hoses to water plants.
There's been other summers that have been hot, other summers that have been dry. This summer we've had record-breaking heat in the UK, across France, in northern Germany, Denmark, and we're seeing record low river levels across Europe as well. This combination is quite unusual.
It's not just Europe. China too is suffering. The heat wave has forced the country's meteorological centre to raise its drought alert to orange, the second most serious level of China's warning system. The receding water levels have also revealed this 600-year-old Buddha statue in Chongqing. Local authorities in the Guizhou province have recently dispatched fire trucks to remote villages to meet the water demands of local households. Firefighters are also tending to withering crops, which have been severely affected by the dry conditions.
Considering that the severe drought condition will continue for some time to come and the hot weather will continue with less precipitation in southern regions, the National Meteorological Center upgraded the drought alerts.
At this week's World Water Week, the UN is hoping to raise awareness over the value of water. And scientists are warning changes needed to both avoid future droughts and to be better prepared for them in the future. They're calling on politicians to be proactive rather than reactive.
Japan is known for its delicious cuisine, and in one corner of the country, artists are creating plastic copies of famous dishes that are so convincing they look like the real thing. Dominic Brian Nomondi has the story.
These delights are deceptive. Companies like this one in Yokohama turn menus into delectable displays for dining industry clients.
We have to follow orders from clients. We take their views on board when we're making items. Normally, that's our work.
But these simulated snacks are handcrafted out of plastic and known as shokonin sampuro, or Japanese sample foods. The fakes are molded and meticulously sculpted to look fresh and flavorful. Realism is key. The most authentic looking pieces can command thousands of dollars, and they represent a multi-million-dollar industry. They also serve an important role in Japan's culinary culture. Originally made of wax, the handcrafted pieces date back in the early 1900s as food stall displays to attract diners long before menus and photography came into use. But the industry is drawing down on its use of sampuro, as fewer restaurants care to use fake food displays. The artists have found another way to share their work.
We have a competition where our staff members are free to create unique pieces by trying new production methods.
This exhibition in Tokyo shows just how far sample food makers can go using techniques meant to hone hunger in new and often whimsical ways.
They're not real, but they look so real. It's wonderful.
And with appetizing appeal. Dominic Branomondi, TRT World.
From robots that conduct PCR tests to mechanical firefighters, the World Robot Conference in China has given us a glimpse of the future. More than 100 companies have been showcasing their latest inventions, and Sarah Morris has picked out the wacky, weird, and wonderful.
How do you welcome visitors to the World Robot Expo? Well, obviously, with 100 robot dogs taking part in a dance-off. Then it's time to meet Albert Einstein, one of the many slightly freaky-looking humanoid robots on display. But don't be fooled. These machines are designed to read your mood and connect with you emotionally.
Unlike industrial robots, ours don't focus on being more efficient or stronger than humans. Our emphasis is on having better emotional interactions. We have found that the service and elderly care industries in particular are looking for such skills.
Ah, the old COVID-19 PCR test. Well, now there's a robot that can do that for you, freeing up medical staff for more important jobs. It's never a pleasant experience, but is it any better with a machine at the helm?
It takes the swab accurately, but it is not as gentle as a human. To be honest, it made me feel a little bit sick.
But the robots fare a little better when it comes to helping people normally confined to a wheelchair. This breakthrough could be a game changer for the disabled and those undergoing mobility rehabilitation. And this little guy could quite literally be a lifesaver. Designed to withstand temperatures of up to 1,000 degrees Celsius, it can go where human firefighters can't. While we're talking emergencies, this skiing robot is poised to transform mountain rescues.
It can be used in harsh, high-altitude environments that are covered by ice and snow. That means it can replace the people on duty, or it can carry out unmanned detection tasks.
Of the 500 robots on display, many are designed to revolutionise our lives, but others, like the stair-walking dog, are perhaps just cool. Cool enough to inspire and mesmerise young minds. Sarah Morris, TRT World.
Well, that rounds up your week of news here on Playback. Stay tuned to TRT World for the latest stories.